against Mexican Jose Luis Ramirez. We go ringside now to Eurosport's Ian Dark on the Mediterranean island of Corsica.
The venue is Ajaccio, the island's capital, and this the World Championship at light welterweight, 10 stone, as recognized by the World Boxing Association. A great fight between Chavez and Taylor for the combined IBF and WBC versions of this title just recently. If this one is half as good as that, we're really in for a treat here in Corsica tonight. There's Ramirez, one of the great old stagers of boxing. 111 professional fights he makes it tonight with this one, and there's the champion making his fourth defense, Juan Martin Coggi from Argentina. But Ramirez there, who's been professional boxing since he was 14 years of age, and he still looks pretty unmarked around the face, crosses himself as he comes out. 12 rounds it's due to go then for the world title at 10 stone, WBA version. And as you can see, Coggi, at 5 feet 9 inches tall, is the taller man of these two, and they're both southpaws. That is, they lead with the right hand, which is unusual. Most boxers lead with their left. Sometimes an advantage to be a southpaw up against an orthodox fighter, because the orthodox fighters find southpaws rather difficult to fight. But that advantage cancelled out here with them both leading with the right hand. Quite a bright start from Coggi. Coggi was the Argentinian champion in 1986, and he won this title shocking Patricio Olivar, who'd previously been unbeaten in 48 contests. So Coggi in the white shorts, just to remind you, Ramirez in red. Good southpaw leads there from Coggi, who's got the longer reach. So it should suit him to keep it on the outside here and not mix in close with Ramirez, who is probably the bigger puncher of the two. And look at this, a good burst here from Coggi in this opening round, clubbing left to the side of Ramirez's head, and he doesn't want to take too many of those, the Mexican. But a good little burst in the opening round, an aggressive burst too, from Juan Martin Coggi. Although he's Argentinian, Coggi, he's made all his title defenses in Italy. He comes, in fact, from part Italian stock. Brings his wife and his son over for training camp here, and then defends the title here, and they've kind of adopted him in a way. He's giving Ramirez one or two problems in this opening round. Ramirez looking tonight to become a champion for the third time, and this would be his second different weight as a title holder if he was to win tonight. It's a pretty big if at 31 years of age for him. Jab working pretty well for Coggi in this opening round. There goes the bell to end round one. Wasn't a great one for Ramirez here, going back to his corner. But if he doesn't know how to pace a fight by now, he never will. He's been in the game for 17 years. Coggi there in the other corner getting some instructions. He's managed by Santos Zacharias. As we pick up a bit of the action again from that opening round. The elbow going in there from Coggi, and a clubbing looking little left, which didn't really seem to land. And the right to the body. The better scoring, though, done in that opening round for my money by Coggi. There is Jose Luis Ramirez. He's been in with some of the great names like Camacho, Mancini, Whitaker, Chavez, Boza Edwards, Rosario. This fellow, although he's been the champion for 3 years, he hasn't really taken off or caught the imagination at world level as yet. Of course, if Coggi was to win this one, defend his title again, he could find himself in a big money unification match against Chavez. Nothing firm about that, but it could happen for him. Good work again from Coggi with that right lead of his and then following it up with the left to the head. And at the moment, Ramirez finding it hard to get past that long, raking southpaw lead of the Argentine champion. Caught with a good left to the head there. No doubt about it that Ramirez is on the downslope of his career now. He was caught on those ropes in the first round and Coggi wanted to get in there again then. Ramirez knew enough to get out of trouble. Of course, a lot of fighters these days get their world title chances very early with so many versions of world titles around. But this fellow Ramirez is coming forward here and starting to let go his punches for the first time in the contest. His first attempt at a world title, would you believe, came in his 87th fight against Edwin Rosario. He lost that one, but then won the return in 1984. That was in his 93rd fight to become world champion for the first time at lightweight. So it was a long, hard road to the top of the mountain for Ramirez. Having won it, he lost in his first defense against Hector Camacho, then regained the title against Terence Ali in 1987. Better round this for Ramirez, just starting to find the range a bit, but walking into a couple of punches on the way in there. And the little sign of respect from Ramirez to Coggi, just waved his glove at him, said, yep, you're a good pro too. Fighters like to do that. So 2 rounds gone. That one was a little bit more even than the first, which Coggi took comfortably enough, but I would think the judges might have just about given that one to Coggi as well, though it was closer. Argument for saying it might have been scored even. Coggi getting some instructions, and Ramirez there. He's done this so many times before, of course. Can he regain a world championship tonight? Action again from round 2. Clubbing lefts from Coggi, holding on behind the head, and the referee, I'd have thought, might have wanted a word about that, but Coggi got away with it. Seemed to be holding behind the head in that little replay we saw from round 2. Third round coming up is due to go 12. WBA version of the World Light Welterweight Championship at 10 stone. Coggi in the white shorts, Ramirez in red. Ramirez's full record, by the way, is 102, lost 8. Absolutely incredible. A real old stager, and 83 of those 102 victories have come by knockout. That's a high ratio, much higher than Coggi's so far. He's had 24 knockout wins in his 41 victories. So he's the sort who often has to do it the long way round on points. Nice right there by Ramirez. Sneak little punch coming in from an unusual angle, caught Coggi by surprise. Coggi tried to work behind that jab all the time. The southpaw lead. And of course with the reach advantage, it's in his favor to do that. And as you saw there, Ramirez was out of range with his punches. He has to get in close and work inside. It's going to suit Coggi to keep it at this range. And that's a nice punch inside. Looked like the left uppercut come left hook into the head of Ramirez, jolted his head back. And every time Ramirez does get in close, Coggi holds on and denies him any kind of range or leverage. This is a good round for the world champion. Working almost exclusively behind that snaking little right lead. There it is again, pumping into the head of Ramirez, making him eat the jab, as they say in the trade. Again, Ramirez is out of range with his punches. Frustrating for him, tires a fighter as well to have to keep on hitting air. Get arm weary like that. Last half a minute of the round. Ramirez, 31 years of age now. It's the sort of age, too, when a fighter can kind of age overnight. He get in the ring one day and suddenly there's nothing more there. Not saying that's happened to Ramirez just at the moment, but he has seen better days. That was Coggi's round again, third round, and the champion ahead at the moment. Fourth round of 12 coming up for the WBA Light Welterweight Championship here in Ajaccio, Corsica. Between Juan Martin Coggi, the champion in the white shorts, and the veteran Jose Luis Ramirez from Mexico in red. Coggi on top at the moment, working well behind his southpaw jab, using the reach advantage pretty well in the opening 3 rounds. And Ramirez has got to start to solve that problem if he's going to make an impact in this fight and win his first world championship at this new weight for him of light welterweight. Caught by a really good left there. And another one from Coggi. And Ramirez goes down. Cumulative effect of those punches. Slip, says the referee, though. Only a slip. I thought he might have taken one in there that had sent him tumbling. A referee, John Coyle, from Great Britain, who was named as the WBA Official of the Year last year, ruling that was only a slip by Ramirez. But a good burst nonetheless from Coggi, who's having things his own way at the moment. Coggi, who looking to emulate perhaps as his career goes on the feats of the greatest Argentine boxer ever, Carlos Monzon, the great middleweight who reigned for 7 years in the 70s. Although Monzon's life has gone off the rails since then. He's currently a guest of the president in Argentina. He ejected his wife from their house, unfortunately for him, by a 4th floor window. And Mr. Monzon is in prison at the moment. His wife died in that incident. No such problems for Coggi out of the ring. And at the moment, not too many problems in the ring for him. Again, he traps Ramirez on the ropes and lets go with those head punches. Ramirez does have a reputation, like a lot of Mexicans, of being very, very durable. Trying to nail him is sometimes like trying to break down a brick wall by throwing tennis balls at it. Again, the jab by Coggi. Nice and light on his feet. His hand speed's good too. Good punch from him. The left, then the straight right. Ramirez had to take both of those to the head. And the Mexican is being outscored at the moment. Another jab goes out from Coggi. Quite a comfortable ride. He's inviting Ramirez to come in and try and counter him. It's another good overhand left, then the left uppercut inside, and another one from Coggi. Good punches those, and emphatically, that was the champion's round. And on my scorecard, I've given him all 4 so far. This man, Juan Coggi. And Ramirez badly in need of some fresh strategy in that corner. He's somehow got to turn this into more of a brawl. 8 world title fights behind him in the past, including 2 with probably the best lightweight around at the moment, Whitaker. Ramirez had a very controversial victory over Whitaker, but Whitaker won the return last August. Action from that round, good left from Coggi there, really jolted back Ramirez's head. And there's that jab again, then the left uppercut, and then another clubbing left. Good punches these from this strong champion, who could be just a little bit underrated at world level. Although Ramirez got in there with a fair-looking right to the head, you saw the volume of work came from Coggi. Coming out now then for the 5th round. And Ramirez looking for a burst that can somehow turn this fight around. Ramirez wearing the red trunks, Coggi in white. Coggi the taller man with the reach advantage. It's counted pretty heavily for him so far, when he hasn't been working over Ramirez with little clusters of head punches thrown with good hand speed. He's just been working away and piling up the points behind that jab. And you have to say it, so far Ramirez has looked a bit like a light of former days. Ramirez trying to work his way inside, trying to come in behind his own jab, but look, he's out of range again with it there. That right. Coggi looks like a nice ring technician too, uses all the ring, and then when they work in close, look at that. A real aggressive burst from Coggi, mixing up the punches well. Jabs, hooks, little crosses in there as well. Good with the uppercut. Impressive performance so far from the Argentinian. And Ramirez must know that he has a big job on his hands here. So Coggi still working very well, and again, look at that jab. Ramrod out into the face of Ramirez, who's taken quite a bit there now. But these Mexicans tend to have this very leathery skin. It doesn't cut, it doesn't even seem to swell. They have this reputation of being a little bit indestructible. Ramirez, for all the punches, all the jabs he's taken, and there's more punches thudding in, body shots as well. Doesn't look very marked, does he? Good advantage for a fighter, and now Ramirez is able to work in close with a body shot. This is better for him. This is the kind of range he needs to keep it at. But Coggi turns him on the ropes and traps him there, leans on, denies him leverage. Final few seconds then of round 5. And this looks like another one for Coggi. They touch gloves in mutual appreciation of each other's talents. But I would think in that corner they must be very pleased with the way things are going here in this 4th defense. This guy's been the champion for 3 years now. And Ramirez here is falling a long way behind on points. Action coming up again from round 5. The left uppercut there, a glancing blow with the left uppercut from Coggi in the white shorts. Then that punch over the top, the left, tried the right inside. Ramirez trying to get his gloves up, but then again he has to eat that southpaw lead. It's pretty much one-way traffic in favor of this man. 6th round coming up. Notice him cross himself before he comes out. Coggi, a handsome, articulate kind of fighter. Got the reputation of being a little bit stroppy sometimes. For one of his defenses against Harold Brazier, he complained about having tonight's referee, John Coyle, as the official, because he said the Falklands War could make Coyle biased against him. But Coyle did the job anyway. He obviously did it pretty well, because Coyle has gone on to referee the last 3 fights, or title fights anyway, of Coggi, which is a little bit unusual, I think. I'm not sure how healthy a situation that is to have the same referee every time, however good he might be. Something the WBA might address themselves to. Coggi's defenses before this against Korean Sang-Ho Lee, he did that job in 2 rounds. Harold Brazier, a very useful craftsman, that was a points win for Coggi, good win too. And then his last defense against the Japanese boxer Hiranaka, that went to points, but interestingly Coggi was down in that fight twice in the 3rd round and came back to win. Oh, look at this, a great burst here from the champion. And now Ramirez wants to go to war as he's trapped, but he really did take some thumping head punches there. And I think if Coggi was more of a concussive puncher, Ramirez might have been in much, much deeper waters there than he was, because those were good shots. Give credit to the little Mexican. He's kept on coming forward in this fight, even though he's been walking and taking a lot of shots. For once it's Coggi on the ropes, but getting the gloves up well. Ramirez starting to find his way through with a couple of body shots there. But Ramirez giving the impression here that he's made of granite or something. Oh, another left hook caught him on the way in there, Ramirez. Little cautionary word for Coggi from referee Coyle. Same pattern, Coggi bouncing around the outsides of the ring, picking off Ramirez with jabs, then coming in with more clusters. Ramirez trying to stalk him and close the range like that as the bell goes to end the round. Nice to see them tapping gloves, very sportsmanlike at the end of each round. But Ramirez needs to do something fairly quickly to try and turn this around. Coggi, this man, on top after 6. Seventh round of 12 for the World Light Welterweight Championship as recognized by the WBA. Juan Martin Coggi, the champion in the white shorts. Jose Luis Ramirez, the 31-year-old Mexican veteran, in his 111th professional fight in the red. And no doubt about it, Coggi is the man on top so far. Coggi won this title in 1987, coming to Sicily to beat Patricio Olivar. He won $25,000, that was all for that. His fans gave him a car as a little present. Hasn't really got into the big money though. $80,000 when he beat Harold Brazier. Of course, the real superstars of boxing talking telephone numbers. But Coggi's held on to the championship. Ramirez still stalking him around the ring, trying to find a way inside. I think body punches might be the answer for Ramirez if he can get in close enough to start landing them, but every time he tries to go close, he gets picked off by that right lead. There it is again. But he somehow needs to slow Coggi down. Coggi's nice and light on his feet. His hand speed's good. Look at that left. Great shot that from the champion. And it rocked Ramirez's head back like a rag doll as it landed. Ramirez just occasionally finding the range with the jab, but he's tending to score with single punches rather than in clutches. A couple of good ones from him there, though. A little bit more weight behind the jab as that landed. He still looks strong, Ramirez, for all the punches he's taken. Teak, tough little Mexican. You don't go in with the likes of Chavez and Mancini and Whitaker and Rosario without knowing exactly how to look after yourself. Indeed, as recently as 1988, Ramirez gave Julio Cesar Chavez, the champion with the IBF and WBC, a pretty good fight. He was behind when it was stopped on a cut in the 11th round. Accidental butt involved there. They added up the scorecards. Chavez was ahead, but a respectable performance by Ramirez. Did slightly better in that round. Wasn't quite so emphatic for Coggi. Indeed, that one could have been scored a little bit more even. So 7 rounds gone. But, Coggi here, the champion, must be ahead by some way. Piling on the water to cool him down. Boxers need that minute's rest between the rounds. Pick up some of the action again. There's that good jab from Ramirez in that round. And for one of the few times in the contest, he really made Coggi think there. It's a pity from Ramirez's point of view that that following left hook didn't find the target. Got a better round for Ramirez. There's referee John Coyle from Wolverhampton in Great Britain. Very good official. And getting a lot of work at world title level these days. Again, that nice sportsman-like gesture. They're even touching gloves at the start of rounds. So there's no phony ballyhoo or silly grudges involved here. These are two good pros, good technicians going about their business. Cracking on, though, into the later stages of the fight now. Fights can be turned around, no matter how big the points lead. Chavez himself recently proving that point against Meldrick Taylor in that memorable fight in Las Vegas. These two at the same weight, of course, light welterweight. 10 stone, or as the Americans like to say, 140 pounds. Good crowd in here. Ramirez trying to exert more pressure. Oh, there's a nice left again from Coggi. It caught Ramirez out. He didn't have the gloves in. But Ramirez, to his credit, still working away, although trapped on the ropes, getting with some body shots. Coggi gets a little warning from referee Coyle. It signs just in the last couple of rounds that Ramirez is coming a wee bit more back into it. He's taking Coggi's shots. He's still coming forward, and he's having little successes, a few more successes, like with that right. Still getting picked off by those punches. He's good with that clubbing left, is Coggi. And Ramirez has been a bit of a sucker for it. But the plot is thickening a little bit in this one. First 6 rounds, Coggi had things nicely under control. He's still pretty much in control of things, but Ramirez in that 7th did better. And he's still stalking his man forward. Oh yeah, scores with the jab, does Ramirez, but not really able to follow it up. And tending to get caught, Ramirez, by counter punches. There's that jab again from the champion. Then the right uppercut inside, then the left, made to miss with that left uppercut. Coggi picking his punches slightly the better there. I think he edged that one as well, the 8th. Although it wasn't as one-sided as some of the earlier rounds. But it's getting to the point now where Ramirez here needs a knockout or stoppage if he's going to turn this fight on its head. Action from round 8 again. Ramirez coming in. Coggi getting the gloves up pretty well. I don't think any of those punches really found the target. That one did, to the body maybe. Good defensive skills by the Argentinian on the ropes there as Ramirez tried to unload. Looks pretty unmarked, no problems with any cuts or anything like that. Coggi will know, and he'll have known before this fight, that Ramirez is not the sort of man you can put away very easily, that it was always likely to go the full distance. Shows every signs of doing so as they come out for round 9. 4 to go then. Coggi, the man in the white shorts, taller man, the champion. Ramirez looking to become a world champion for the 3rd time tonight in the red. It's incredible to think how long Ramirez has been around. 17 years. And just to remind you again, a professional when he was 14 years old. Brought up in the tough Mexican school, where they have real wars in the gymnasiums as well in Mexico. Probably had a fight just about every week somewhere in Mexico on his way up. And as I told you earlier, 87 fights before he even challenged for a world title. A bit like the old timers, that. Get a lot of fighters these days who are fighting for world titles in about their 20th fight. That's probably because there are too many world titles around. I think it's about 60 odd, which seems faintly ridiculous to me. Good punches again there from Coggi. Ramirez, you feel, would love to trap his man on the ropes and start wading away to the body, weaken him like that. But he hasn't managed to do that with any consistency. Coggi almost inviting Ramirez in then, covering up and probably looking to score on the counter. Still that southpaw jab and that dangerous left which tends to follow it. That time it didn't find Ramirez's head. Plenty of times it has, like that. Last half minute then of the 9th round. And again the left from Coggi. He's not a big puncher, this champion. And that's probably just as well as far as Ramirez is concerned. Ramirez at this stage of his career rather giving the impression that he's unable to up the tempo, up the pressure. As the bell goes to end 9 rounds, they touch gloves again, and Coggi at this point looks well on the way to retaining his WBA light welterweight title. Coming out for the 10th round then of this WBA light welterweight championship bout, Juan Martin Coggi, the champion in the white shorts, Jose Luis Ramirez from Mexico in the red. And Coggi, certainly on my scorecard at the moment, a long way in front, and Ramirez needs to find something dramatic in these closing 3 rounds if he's going to retrieve this one. Big crowd watching in Ajaccio in Corsica. Ramirez, who's had so many wars down the years. What has he got left at the bottom of the tank? Can he somehow find that old championship glitter? Can he somehow produce something special to turn this all around? It's starting to look a pretty unlikely scenario. Coggi has dominated behind that right southpaw lead, which, just as I said that, snaked out again into the face of Ramirez. Doesn't really look close even at the moment, to be perfectly honest with you. Warning from referee Coyle for Coggi about use of the elbow. Punchers sometimes do that, fighters. They tend to follow in their punches with the elbow. If the glove doesn't hit you, the elbow does. One of those little professional tricks of the trade. Tyson's been accused of doing that, I know, by some people. Now Ramirez has Coggi on the ropes for a moment. He's looking to unload. Coggi isn't quite as light on his feet as he was earlier on. He looks a little bit more tired, not so much spring in his step. And not quite so many of those fast punches from him, but nice meaty left again to the head. Good scoring shot still from Coggi. He's breathing a little heavier now too. But Ramirez has taken a lot. And even somebody as durable as him, well, it must have all had some effect on him, especially at 31, especially with 110 fights behind you, and goodness knows how many rounds. Caught again on the way in there by that overhand left to the side of the head, Ramirez. Corsican crowd sitting quite quiet through this. Intrigued rather than excited by it as the bell goes to end the round. Again they touch gloves on the way back to the corner. Certainly in the second half of the fight, Coggi here hasn't dominated quite so emphatically as he did in the earlier rounds. Ramirez, I wonder what the corner will be telling him as we just look again at some of the action from that round. That left has been a trademark punch in this fight for Coggi. He's done well with uppercuts as well. And Ramirez there, you can see, I think he may have just been shaken by one of those, because he does look as if he wants to hold on and gain a little respite. Just keep it up, the corner are telling him. You're probably a couple of rounds from retaining your title, Ramirez. He's got that expressionless look that he's carried from the beginning. The old pro. Always the question too at this stage of a fighter's career like Ramirez, of whether he's in the business maybe of just collecting the money and whether the ambitions dried up a bit. Bags and bags of pride, of course. But it's sometimes hard to summon up all the hunger you had as a young fighter on the way up when you've had as many battles as Ramirez has had down the years. He's performed respectably again here, Ramirez. But he's had to take too many punches. He's not slipped enough, really. The southpaw jab has landed with consistency. So is that left. And again, an impressive burst from Coggi. And Ramirez, well, that's another thing. When you just get a little bit longer in the tooth, the reflexes maybe just start to go. Coggi not doing too much, not throwing out too many punches, hanging around on those ropes, getting the gloves up. A lot of those punches not landing, a lot of them going into the elbows and landing on the gloves, like that right lead, in fact, from Coggi. Good left again from Coggi. Overhand lefts, left hooks. And that's what Ramirez needs to do, and needed to have done a good deal earlier. Get his right glove up a little bit more to stop those lefts from thudding into the side of his head. He's been caught by far too many of those like that again. Ramirez still wanting to come forward, come on in, like the old war horse he is. Again, he's punished with a left, though, to the side of the head. It's amazing, really, that a fighter with all his experience has been so repeatedly caught by that left-hand punch. And I think the problem's been because his own right glove's been held too low as the bell goes to end round 11. Just one round to go in this. For my money, that again was Coggi's round. You could argue that some of these rounds have been even in the later stages, and maybe even Ramirez sneaked one or two along the way, but I can't believe that anybody who's been watching this closely wouldn't have Coggi, the proverbial street ahead, on points. Having said that, you see some funny old decisions from judges sometimes. Well, I think they'd have probably been having to read a book or something to have missed the pattern of this one. There's the right lead, there's the left that follows it. Didn't really land heavily. That did, though, didn't it? That overhand left, then he brings up the uppercut. Ramirez was slick enough to avoid that punch. 12th and final round, then, for the World Boxing Association version of the light welterweight championship. At 10 stone, 140 pounds. They touch gloves for the last time. A big, broad smile from referee Coyle from England. It must have been a pleasure to referee this one. They've been so sportsmanlike throughout it. I suppose some would say that Ramirez has been a bit too sportsmanlike. Maybe there's not quite enough fire about his performance here, or zest. He's gone about his work like an honest old pro, but it's been a slightly one-paced performance from him. And Coggi's had things much his own way. And barring late dramas, seems to be on his way to making a successful fourth defense of this title. The title he's held since 1987, the Argentinian. And who knows, maybe there's a little pot of gold waiting for him in a unification match with Julio Cesar Chavez, another Mexican. trouble for Coggi is, although he's a pretty good technician and he's awkward and he's strong and he's difficult to beat, he's not one of those marketable fighters that promoters are queuing up to sign. Ramirez trying his best to try and lift the tempo, to somehow try and steal this with one punch that could get Coggi groggy, but it looks pretty unlikely to me at the moment. Still the champion throwing that left from way back. Cries of Argentina, Argentina from ringside to urge Coggi on through these final moments of the fight. 12th round. I think the corner will have said to him, just stay out of trouble. Don't do anything silly. Don't mix it with him in this round. And the title must still be yours. Poking out that jab on the way round all the time, just fending Ramirez off. Every time Ramirez trying to line up attack, out goes the jab into his face, and he has to just think again. Coggi's been the boss in there tonight. And he's 20 seconds away from claiming the scalp of this big-name boxer, but a big-name boxer, I think it has to be said, in Jose Luis Ramirez, who is on the downslope now. Countdown then on the right of your picture. Well, I think something must be wrong with that clock. There we are, it was a few seconds out, but there's the bell to end it. The hug of mutual appreciation. Coggi looks pretty happy with things, doesn't he? A little smile. And Ramirez, I think, is enough of a pro to know that he lost that fight. There's no histrionics from him. They're not carrying him around the ring, cheering him as if he's won the fight. You sometimes see that. Fighters who've clearly lost pretending that they've won, but I don't think there's any sign of that here. This looks like defense number 4 has gone down very well. This fight going around the world. Those gentlemen, I think, commentating back to Argentina, where they'll be very pleased with developments, although we must wait for the official decision, of course. But if Coggi wasn't to get this, it would go down as one of the great robberies of all time. If he hasn't won, he's doing a pretty good impersonation of somebody who has, isn't he? Smiling his way through interviews. I'm not sure fighters should be interviewed before the verdict's even announced, but I don't know, anything goes sometimes, especially in Italy. And there's his young son, Martin, 5-year-old son, coming into the ring. Gets a kiss from Dad. Not everybody'd want their sons at the fight, although Buster Douglas did, of course, didn't he, when he beat Mike Tyson. So it seems to be the vogue. A resigned look in the Ramirez corner. They say some fighters, if you come to Italy and fight the home boxer, which Coggi kind of is these days because he fights most of the time in Italy, you have to knock the other guy out twice to get a draw. That's the old joke about Italy, but maybe it's a bit unkind. But I don't think there's much doubt about this one. Looks unmarked around the face. Ramirez, the question really must be, how much longer will he fight on? Because he's got to the stage now, really, where he could become a chopping block for other fighters. We're going to get the decision. Coggi has retained the title. No complaints from Ramirez. He knew the score. And it must have been an emphatic points decision. He didn't actually announce the scores there, but Coggi won that and won it big.
Coggi retains his WBA light welterweight title. Well, coming up after the break, the IBF-WBC World Light Welterweight Championship. A look back at the best of the action as the great Julio Cesar Chavez takes on Meldrick Taylor in Las Vegas.